a question about Isaiah. When the seraphim puts the hot coal to the guy's lips, I've lost the marker in my Bible. That happens to me all the time, Kathy. And I can't remember the verse. What's happening there?
Yeah, it's in Isaiah 6, if you want to turn there. So in Isaiah chapter 6, starting at the beginning, in the year that King Uzziah died, I saw also the Lord sitting upon the throne high and lifted up, which isn't that interesting, just to preach for a second. Uzziah was viewed as like top dog. He was amazing. And Isaiah casually says, remember the year that Uzziah died? Well, the Lord was high and lifted up still. Isn't that a wonderful contrast? I love that. And then it talks about this vision that Isaiah is seeing of the throne room. And this is what she's referring to. So if you scroll down just a little bit, he says in verse number 5, he says, woe, woe is me. I think, are you in the NIV still? Can we?
Oh,
Yeah,
I
there
am.
you Everybody's going, oh, she loved that translation of Morning Star.
All right, let's
See
try that again.
all the corruption I brought to your channel. You're already
Yeah.
on the NIV.
Oh my goodness.
But look at verse number 5. He says, woe is me. Now, this is an interesting thing. When we look at other people, and this is what Paul got onto us for this, don't compare yourself to other people, right? Why
Yeah.
are you judging another man's servant? I want to look at people and say, they should be doing this. I do this. Why don't they do this? But when Isaiah got in the throne room of God, you know what his first comment was? I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. I'm undone. There is no security. There's no substance to me. I'm not being held together. I thought I was something, and I'm nothing in light of God. I'm undone.
Mm.
Why? Because I don't even speak the right things. I'm a man of unclean lips. And that's what she's referring to. And then slowly Isaiah kind of looks around. He goes, and I'm in the midst of people of unclean lips. We're all in trouble. And the word for there is like his conclusion. Why do I think this way? Because I've seen the king. I've seen him. In other words, I didn't know I was a man of unclean lips to this extent before, and I didn't realize how rotten everybody else was. But I saw the king. And when I saw him, I'm in trouble and you're all in trouble. So that's kind of the opening to this. In verse number 6, it says, then flew one of the seraphims onto me, having a live coal in his hand, which he had taken with the tongs off of the altar. And he laid it to my mouth, because remember, he was talking about his mouth, unclean lips. And he said, lo, this hath touched thy lips, thine iniquity is taken away, thy sin is purged. So what we have here is a beautiful picture of the righteousness of God, but also the redemptive atoning power of the altar. And so he's saying, I can't be, because Isaiah 5 is the commissioning of Isaiah. The Lord's calling Isaiah to do a very difficult thing. By the way, if you're ever discouraged in ministry, read Isaiah 5, because the Lord calls Isaiah to ministry and he says, by the way, one last thing before you go, just so you know, you're not going to be successful and no one's going to believe you. Okay, get in there and win. It's literally Isaiah 5. It's like, no one's going to care what you have to say, but here's what I'm calling you to do. So
Yep.
yeah, it's not going to work. Good luck. But God called him to do that, but he also knew that they weren't going to listen. So in this passage, Isaiah is like, I am not worthy to do this, but we see here the atoning power of the altar. So here in this passage, we have a comic book version. This is a vision. So everything is done in hyperbole, very, very vivid imagery of a hot coal coming off of the altar and touching the lips of Isaiah and purging his lips, meaning um, cleansing them. This is in the same way as Christ on the cross has cleansed us from our sin. And so he approaches the throne of God. He knows he can't do anything. He's too wicked. But through pain from the altar, it's purged. And in verse number 7, he says, and he laid it on my mouth and said, lo, this has touched thy lips. Thine iniquity is taken away. Thy sin is purged. So
It's
there's
like an atonement
it's an
picture.
atonement. It's a picture of a cleansing
Wow.
atonement through pain from the altar when we approach the throne of God.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Okay. And Sister Kathy, that was a great question. Probably a lot of us have heard people take these verses and make it very mythological and make
Mhm.
it very sci-fi-y.
Yeah.
And I have
Yeah.
been so guilty of that myself that it's hard. That's why it's hard to understand. But we have to, my encouragement to everyone here would be lay down the sci-fi, lay down the mythology, and trust God to teach us. You know, he's going to teach us the right things.